Obviously, they're preparing right now for this press conference with the Arapahoe County Sheriff, Grayson Robinson, when that begins, when they have their microphones in order. Let me go to Ana Cabrera, who is on location. Ana, what have you learned since we last checked in with you at the top of the show?
Jake, what an afternoon. We've been talking to parents and students who are now reuniting. You can see this parking lot full behind me where they have cordoned off. This is a church that's just a couple of blocks from Arapahoe High School, where parents and students are seeing each other, hugging each other, holding each other, and being thankful for that special reunion. It has been a very traumatic day, clearly, for the community and particularly for the students who were inside the high school. I had a chance to speak with Whitney Riley. She's a 15-year-old. Her and her dad were able to reunite fairly quickly, but she heard gunshots inside this school when all of this took place earlier this afternoon. It was shortly after 12:30 local time, of course, 2:30 Eastern time when all of this happened. So a lot of students just wrapping up lunch. Whitney said she went to her locker to get her computer and went to sort of a study hall to do some homework, and she and some students were just talking when they heard at least one, what sounded like a gunshot. They looked at each other and heard two more, as she described it. And
Anna,
it was a very scary situation.
I'm sorry,
she said
Anna.
her teachers
I'm going to interrupt you right now just because we're going to go live to the press conference
regarding this particular situation. Today at 12:33 p.m., a lone gunman entered the school on the west side. The gunman came into the school and immediately asked for the location of a very specific teacher, and he named that teacher by name. When the teacher heard that this individual was asking for him, the teacher exited the school immediately. In my opinion, was the most important tactical decision that could have been made. That he knew he was the target, and he left that school in an effort to try to encourage the shooter to also leave the school, with the focus of safety and security and well-being of our students in his mind. When that happened, one student was shot by the shooter. That student was transported immediately by Littleton Fire Rescue, and that student is currently in serious condition at a local hospital undergoing surgery. A second victim was shot. That individual suffered a very minor gunshot wound and is being treated at a local hospital. We believe that individual will be released before the end of the evening. Our active shooter protocol was immediately initiated by our school resource officer. The officer went immediately to the threat as he is trained, and all of the responding deputies and police officers also activated our regional active shooter protocol, and that is to go to the threat and try to eliminate the threat while keeping students and staff safe. Within 20 minutes of the time of the report of the shooting, our deputies found the suspect dead inside the school. Currently, right now, it appears to us that shooter is dead as a result of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. However, that determination remains under investigation, and we will continue to look at those details. At this point in time, we have victims advocates with the families and the victims at the hospital, and we have investigators with the family of the shooter. We are beginning our investigation now as a crime scene. We have evacuated the entire school. The school was evacuated very slowly, deliberately, and meticulously. We wanted to ensure that all of our students, number one, were safe, and secondly, we wanted to ensure that we had no other suspects or individuals that were collaborators with our shooter. Although it will remain under investigation, at this point in time, we believe the shooter that is deceased is the only individual that was armed in this school today and came here to cause harm to the students and or faculty of this facility. However, that remains under investigation. We also have assets coming from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation to assist us with our responsibilities to process this crime scene, collect evidence, and do the work that we need to do so that we can come to a final conclusion of why this happened and how it happened. At this point in time, we have assets across the South Metro area talking with people who either know the suspect or have some association with him, and we are trying to collect that information. As I indicated, the school was evacuated methodically and very deliberately. We initially evacuated students to the Shepherd of the Hills Church, which is located about a block south of our current location. Very quickly, that facility became overwhelmed with the numbers of students and parents that were trying to reunite. And we had to select a second reunification site, which is the Euclid Middle School, located at 777 West Euclid Avenue in Littleton, Colorado. Very frankly, that is a distance from here, but it is the most convenient and it's the largest facility that we could come up with quickly in order to do the work that we need to do quickly and efficiently. We are in the process now of reunifying our students and our families. We are in the process now of putting together a crisis intervention team that will be available for staff and students of Arapahoe High School as long as that group of crisis intervention professionals are needed. We will work in collaboration with the school district, and we will work in collaboration with our colleagues across the state that provide crisis intervention and mental health assistance to anyone that needs it as a result of this tragic shooting. With that, that is the information I currently have to share. I will be back with you in a few moments with questions. But before I answer any questions, I would like Superintendent of Schools Scott Murphy to join me and make some comments, please.
Sheriff, can he stand next to you so he can take advantage of your microphones? Thanks, sir.
Can you just step up a little bit closer? Thank you.
Our thoughts, our prayers are with all the families, the students affected. We are doing everything we can to work with our Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department, and we'll do the care that we need to for the families as we go forward. It's a very, very difficult day for Littleton Schools and Arapahoe High School.
Thank you, Scott. With that, Governor Hickenlooper would also like to make some comments. Governor, thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm not sure what I can add. Obviously, our hearts go out to the principal, Natalie Promenko, Scott Murphy, the superintendent you just heard. I mean, this is a good school district, and to have this all too familiar sequence where you have gunshots and parents racing to the school and unspeakable horror in a place of learning, and in this case we saw the incredible training and preparation of our first responders, and I give Sheriff Robinson, who announced his retirement today, of all the ironies. I mean, they had this trained so that, again, officers from all across the South Metro area were trained in how to go in immediately into that school and make sure that the perpetrator, this kid, the officers went right to him, and they got to him literally within minutes. That is a world of change from the way response used to happen, and I think it just says volumes about these guys. And our hearts and prayers are with the entire Arapahoe school community, and we'll do everything we can to help them get through this.
Thank you, Governor. With that, I will try to answer questions. I want to also tell you that there are some questions that clearly I am not in a position to answer because of the ongoing investigation, but I will certainly, as I usually try to, tell you when I can and cannot. Yes, sir.
Sir, I heard that the suspect's locker was a cause of concern. Can you tell us anything about that?
It's a process of the ongoing investigation. We certainly will look at every aspect and detail that may be associated with the suspect, not only his locker, any place that he may have frequented in the school, and very, very frankly, his home as well.
Thank you. Is it locker number 444?
I would have no idea.
Sheriff, you said that the teacher left school immediately. Can you know about the relationship between him and the student, why he should leave?
Still a matter under investigation of what the relationship between the shooter and the teacher was. We know that the student that was armed with a shotgun, as he entered the west side of Arapahoe High School, immediately asked for the location of this specific teacher and asked for that teacher by name. As soon as the teacher realized that, as I indicated in my initial comment, he departed the school. That was a very wise tactical decision. He took himself away from the school and with an effort to try to encourage the shooter to go with him.
What can you tell us about this? What can you tell us about the student who was shot? How did that occur and what was going on there?
Don't know the details. Still a matter under investigation. We do know that that student suffered a serious gunshot wound. We believe that the student is still in surgery in a local hospital. We certainly share our thoughts and our prayers with her and her family.
What can you tell us about explosives or Molotov cocktails?
Explosive, sure.
We certainly, as part of our protocol, our bomb squad from the sheriff's office responded. Initially because of the fact that we never know and we want to be err on the side of more assets than fewer. We believe that we have one device in the school. Initially it was reported to me that it was a Molotov cocktail, but my bomb squad is working that, trying to identify it. I'll have more information the next briefing that we provide.
Sure.
What about the shooter? His age, class,
name.
Graduate.
First off, I will not, he is a current student of Arapahoe High School. I will not release him. We have identified him. We have investigators that are with his family and with his colleagues. I will not identify him at this point in time. When it is appropriate, I will identify the shooter.
What about the age, Sheriff?
Again, I won't provide any information relative to the shooter until I am prepared to do so relative to the ongoing investigation.
What about the student who intervened?
Question, you were talking about the west side of the school where the shooter entered. Give us a sense, because I've never been to this school. Give us a sense. Is this the office area? Is this one of the exits or entrances on the other side?
The west side, the question was the configuration of the school on the west side. The west side of this school is typically made up of the student parking lot. It is an area that has at least two and probably three if the kids are real innovative, different entrances and exits that can be used. Goes into the immediate area of the gymnasium and the pool on the west side, so that gives you a bit of a configuration of where we're at.
Sheriff, who did the student ask for this specific teacher?
He asked the other students that were in the immediate area the location of the specific teacher.
How is it that no teacher or administrator encountered this student first? How did a student get to the armed student first?
Well, I think first off, you have to understand that this is a high school. These young men and women that are here to be educated come and go fairly freely. They have downtime, they have breaks in their day. So they are moving in and about the school on a regular basis. Certainly as the individual entered the school, he asked for the teacher immediately from the students that were in the area. There were no other teachers in the area.
Was the gun available? Was the gun visible at that time?
Yeah, the suspect was carrying a
pump action or rifle?
Hang on. The student that entered the high school was armed with a shotgun. I'm not at liberty, nor will I discuss the details of that weapon at this point. However, it was clear that he was armed with a shotgun. He made no effort to hide it or conceal it. He carried it into the school as he entered the school.
And was it the other students who alerted the teacher then?
The word got around immediately that he was looking for the teacher. Yes, ma'am.
And the active shooter protocol, is that something that was started right after Columbine or just in the last several years? A little bit, what's the history about that program?
Well, clearly the active shooter protocol has to do with going to the threat and not waiting. It is a protocol that has been trained across the state of Colorado, not just in one or two local agencies, but we not only train in our individual agencies, but then we come together regionally and we train on these particular protocols. I will remind you of training programs that we put in together and exercises around Operation Mountain Guardian several months ago that had to do with active shooter. Those protocols, unfortunately, have had to be used far, far, far too many times in Colorado and across the United States because of these tragic episodes where people decide they've got to even up the score with a weapon.
Sir, can you tell us, please, if there was an SRO?
We had an SRO. The SRO immediately responded on his own to the area of the threat.
Do you know where he was, the SRO?
I do not know.
Thank you.
What can you tell us about the confrontation between the...
Initially, we were told there was a confrontation between the shooter and the student that was wounded. At this point in time, it appears that that is probably not accurate. It appears that the student was simply in the area of the shooter and was shot at the time the shooter came through the school.
Can you describe where this person
was shot?
I will not discuss the wounds or any information around the victims at this point.
How far was the shooter able to get into the school before we assume he took his own life?
Well, the shooter actually went quite a ways into the school because we found his body in the internal portion of the school in a classroom.
Sheriff, did anybody discharge, police, law enforcement discharge weapons?
There was no law enforcement weapons discharged in the school. They were armed. Certainly, if you speak with students and faculty that were in the school, the deputy sheriffs and the police officers that responded and reacted to this active shooter were adequately armed.
How many shots fired?
They were armed with urban street rifles and their service weapons, which is part of our protocols. They entered the facility with the absolute responsibility and purpose of eliminating the threat. They quickly worked the school to try to find that threat, and as soon